Today I'll show you how to create a studio for your talking head videos. This is a complete guide that's good for beginners and professionals. We'll cover everything from gear to the setup. Let's dive in. The first step is to figure out where in your office or in your apartment this video studio setup should be. I happen to be here in beautiful Bali, and I'm going to show you around to see what options we have available. We have this living room. We have a lot of little attributes that we can use for decoration if we want to. There we have a TV, the desk, and that's pretty much it. I'm making a video about how to do a setup, like a talking head setup. I thought since I'm doing it anyways, I might as well.
Gotcha.
Alex, what do you think about the setup? Would you do it in the living room or would you do it in that bedroom?
It depends if Ben works at night. Otherwise, I'm gonna have Ben in my room at 4 a.m. So I'm gonna record at 4 a.m. or
I will adjust my patterns according to our decision.
do you think there is enough space to make it in the living room?
No, it's a horrible decision. I already said in the camera, like on camera, there are a few factors that suck. Number one is noise. Number two, people coming in. So it's super awkward for them and for you. But another thing that people don't consider is the light. So here you can use the curtains and you have the same exact lighting setup all the time. And then here you cannot do the same.
In the room. Is it?
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use that wall. But if you look at it, like the wall is not like symmetrical. You have like this weird like window over there. So I'm probably going to put like a massive ass painting to cover it up and then put some decoration in the background. We'll see. Then we have option number two, setting it up in this beautiful room, which I'm about to show you. All right, so here's how it looks like. We have the desk over there. That's what we're going to use for our studio for sure. So let's look around. Let's see what we have here. So there's a solid wall. The best look would be this. We can crop out these two, but obviously there's a bed and I'm not feeling motivated enough to move this bed around. So we're not going to move the bed. Although probably it would have been an option if I was to stay here for longer than 2 months. But yeah, so the only option that we really have over here is this wall. We can hang something on the wall and that's pretty much it, to be entirely honest. We can also use this curtain and make things directed that way. But if we're choosing between the curtains and the wall, I'll pick the wall because it just looks much nicer. It's one consistent texture. Also kind of an option, you can do it at an angle. You can do a studio, for example, like this. This will be the shot, but it's also geometrically a little weird, and then we'll need to move the table every single time. For our goals, I really like this room. You can control the light with the curtains over there. Another small detail that only professionals will know, or people who have done this many times, you need to look at the surface texture. Specifically, this wall is reflective, as you can see. Right there's a little spot. It's like a little mirror. So when we have our lights, we'll need to make sure to set them up so that they do not create a big circle, so they're not really visible. So if the surface is too reflective, another thing we'll be able to do is take something else to cover that area that has the reflection. For example, we can take this painting and put it in the area where that big spotlight will be. Next up, let's talk about the gear itself. First things first, we have our cameras. Those are two Sony's FX30s, and they're quite different. We have this variable focal length lens over here. It starts from 17 millimeters, meaning it's going to be very zoomed out, and then we can zoom it in, which is super nice. This is going to be the main lens, the main camera. Then we have the second camera, and this camera is a fixed focal length, so it's 16 millimeters, and 16 millimeters is super close. And then we have 1.4 aperture. What aperture is how wide the iris gets, meaning if it gets super wide, then you have this smooth, beautiful look with a blurred out background. But the cameras are the first things that you would think about, but they're not the most important thing. The most important thing is getting these two beautiful lights set up. So personally, I would rather film with my iPhone and use those two lights than film with these two cameras and not have a light, but they will do all of the job for us. Because at the end of the day, what a camera is, it's a sensor that gets light. So you might as well get good lighting. The lights need to be diffused. So we have these two light domes. Here's how it looks like. You have the honeycomb right there. And the bigger this thing is, the more diffused the light is going to be and the more studio-like it's going to look like. Another important detail is the tripods themselves. We have this carbon fiber tripods. Those are really amazing. I love traveling with them. That's why we bought those carbon fiber tripods, so you can take these cameras with you for more fun adventures. For the lights, we have more of heavy-duty tripods. They're heavy, but they're really tall. And an important thing to know here is that you cannot really use this light and this light dome on that tiny tripod. This is a super lightweight tripod, weighs less than a kilogram, just not going to be able to handle it, and it's not tall enough. We're going to light the background with those two tube lights. Sound, extremely important. Then we have the teleprompter, and that's pretty much it. Then we have a bunch of wires ready to go. So if we were to prioritize all of this gear to figure out what do we bring first, honestly, for me, lighting would be super important, probably number one, microphone number two, cameras number three, and all of this gear fits really nicely in this one suitcase. And this suitcase was 30 kilograms. Is it worth it? Hell yeah, it's worth it. If you make any type of content, you can bring it with you. Again, this entire suitcase was packed with gear. Now, let's go ahead and assemble all of this stuff. And I'm actually not going to touch any of the gear because I'm going to set up the backdrop first, and then I will adjust the lights and the cameras according to the backdrop that we choose. Okay, so this is going to be more or less where the cameras are going to be, and I'm going to decorate that wall right there. For that, I'm probably going to use this painting. We have some plants, which is always a great addition. Let's see what else we have. We have this thing, so we'll probably use two in case we want to use any of them, just for symmetry. This plant is not very leafy, so not a huge fan. I'm going to pick my main camera with this lens, and I'm going to set it up somewhere where ideally it's going to be. The farther it is from the background, the better. And right now, the setup, we have the table over here and the backdrop over there. Again, we need to create a little bit of distance between the desk and the background. That way it's going to be a little bit more blurry, a little bit more beautiful. So let's set up this tripod over here. Using this camera for the setup will allow me to see the framing. So maybe I'll bring some things closer or farther away, and I'll be able to place my decoration in the appropriate places so that everything is nicely balanced. Another question is, how tall do you want the camera to be? And the answer is it should be on your eye level. And to figure out what that eye level is for your talking head video, all you need is you need your chair. You sit in front of the camera like this, and this is a little bit below the eye level. So I'm going to readjust it now. The height is perfect. Let's turn it on and see what the camera sees. Okay, so we have a little bit of the bed and a little bit of the window, which we do not want. I can use the zoom over here, a little bit more interesting, and then we can turn it that way. I think that could be good enough. Another thing you can do is you can actually move the tripod to achieve your desired look. Definitely don't want that curtain. We have a plant over here. We can put a similar plant on the right side to balance it out, and we could potentially move this painting to the center, but I don't want to worry about it just yet, to be honest. I don't want to make any major changes. So let's take these two things and pull them out and figure out how to balance this plant with something else that's green on the right side. Okay, it's looking pretty balanced. Now let's bring in the table and the chair into the frame. You see the table is not perfectly centered, but if it covers the entire space over there and just a line in the frame, then we should be good, but I don't think that's the case. Let's go ahead and check it out. Okay, here's our table, and as you can see, it's not perfectly balanced, but we cannot move it more to the right. So I'm going to move this part over here where it will not be visible, hopefully, or we can get rid of it entirely so that in the frame we're nicely balanced. But first, we're almost out of juice, and here are the options we have. You can buy some spare batteries like these ones, which I recommend. This is my day-to-day setup, or we can use a dummy battery, and for that we'll need to have an outlet. Okay, let's set up our second camera right now. It's at the eye level, but the second camera that's going to be on the side, it can be a little bit higher ideally. So I'm going to turn it on and see how it looks like. Okay, the main one is going to be perfectly balanced where the subject is right in the middle, but the second one is going to be on the side. And we have two options here. It can be on the right side or it can be on the left side. So because it's fixed length, so it's 16 millimeters, we will need to place it pretty close to the subject. So that's how it's going to look like. We'll either have that curtain or we'll need to put it on the left side and see how that would look like. The problem over here is we have the bed over there and it's not a nice look at all. So we cannot use the left side. Thus, automatically, we're going to pick this side. This camera I'm not happy with. We're going to get you fixed. The final part is lighting, perhaps the most important part that will help you transform a studio from looking like this into this. For lighting, I have two options. I have the Amaran 300C and I have the SmallRig RC220B. B stands for bicolor, meaning it can be warmer or it can be colder. And then for each one of those, I have the light domes. Technically, you do not need both of them. One of them will suffice. This one is a little bit cheaper. This one is great, it's smaller, but this light is the RGB light and you can set it up for the backdrop to make it any color. So I like having that one as well. And also the LED itself is slightly bigger, so I'm going to choose this light as my main light. I'm going to set this tripod to the maximum height. Let's see what it can do. Let's add the light dome. Okay, with these lights, the rule is to keep them closer to the subject. We can technically pull it back so that there's more room to walk, but I'll see how this looks like. Maybe we'll just move some things around. Let's go ahead and plug it in. I'm going to pull this up a little bit. Where do we want to place this tripod with the key light? The rule of thumb is going to be either around 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. So if this is the face of the subject, we're going to be at 1 p.m. That's the horizontal angle, and then we'll have the vertical angle as well. So I'll tilt it down a little bit, and then we'll see how that actually looks. The ideal distance between the subject and the key light is about 1 meter or 3 feet or so. Depending on when you film, the natural lighting is going to change, and in this case, we have just too much space for natural light to go into the room. We want to avoid that. We want to have a consistent picture regardless of the time of the day. So what I'm going to do before setting up the settings on this camera, I'm going to block all of the external light with this curtain. If you have this possibility to do the same, you should absolutely and totally use it. Now we have the complete blackout. Guys, I need a volunteer for 5 minutes. Fivos, you look like the one chilling on the couch. See, they're working. No, I need a stand-in, a person to sit at the table so we can set up the lights.
Yeah. All right.
So here's the idea. I just want to know how it's going to look like when you speak here at the studio. And you can just be doing your thing on the phone, and I'm going to do the lighting setup. And for you, my friends, the first thing we want to do is we want to limit the light that is already here in the room. So we're going to turn those off. Complete blackout first though. That's dark. That is bright. So this camera is going to be our main measurement device. Let's move it a little bit that way. But we're setting up the lighting. Let's record. Can you look into this camera a little bit? Okay, so no shadows. Looks pretty flat. Okay, we are at 26%. I really hate cranking this number up because then when you film, it really sucks. So you get super tired. My preferred lighting setup is around 20 to 40 percentage-wise, and it's easy to accomplish when you have the full blackout. And then for kelvins, this is the temperature. The higher it is, the colder it is, the lower it is, the warmer it is. Okay, so I go for 56 usually. The measurement of the temperature is going to be the skin color. It needs to look natural. And there's a little bit of a shadow on the right side of his face. I guess it's the left side of his face, which is good. So we can use this second light if we want to make it a little bit more cinematic. I will put it over his head, but probably will not have as much room, as much space. So I'm going to be using just the single light setup. Yeah, the image looks pretty good. Next up, let's set up, since we have the stand in, I'm going to set up the second camera. And the second camera is going to be a little tricky. And the reason it's tricky is because, again, it's fixed length, so it's 60 millimeters. So we'll need to physically place the camera next to the subject. Actually, it doesn't look bad at all. Of course it doesn't. Look at that. Can you sit straight for a second? All right. And can you lean forward as if you have a laptop in front of you? Okay. Exactly. Looks pretty decent. Thank you. I think it's done. Yeah. Thanks so much, man. Okay, so we have a decent image, but we can still elevate it a little bit by introducing some additional lights. And for that, we have these two tube lights. We're going to put them in the back. For the temperature, so the best settings for these lights is to be warmer than the key light. So the key light is at 56 Kelvin, and for this light, we are going to go for, you see it's 55. 55 is a no-go for us. So we're going to select that, and we're going to scroll down to make it as low as it gets. So we are at 2700 Kelvin. Okay, so we're going to put this light behind this plant to elevate that. Now we have the backlights. There they are. They're highlighting our decoration. The one at the bottom looks really nice, and you can tell by the shadow that it casts. It's a pretty small shadow, and this shadow is pretty bad. It's pretty distinct, so it stands out a lot. What you can do is you can pull the plant a little bit closer to us, so the shadow is going to be a bit more diffused. That's what I'm going to try out. Let's see if we can get rid of this. You can see the shadow gets a little bit more diffused, but we have two sources of light, this one and that one. So that is a little bit of a tricky situation. Ideally, we can control it with this light, so we can see what else we can do. This would be the best look, but obviously we cannot hold it like that. So that's not going to be my top option. This may be in the frame or it may not, so I'm going to go ahead and check it out. Yeah, it is in the frame right there. Okay, so I just recorded myself over here. It doesn't look bad per se, but I'm not still very happy with this image. We have the shadow on the right side over there. Maybe I'll try doing a flat image to see how that looks. Also, my right arm is pretty dark, so again, I can try setting up this other light, this second light over here, or I can just work with what we have. I'll try to work with this light and try to make it a tiny bit better. So Alex, how do you feel about half of your room being occupied right now by camera gear?
Impressed by the represent team. Like look at this, like professional studio set up in I think 3 hours. So first week in Bali and we're already properly set up.
All right, and are you okay with having half of your bedroom to be a recording studio?
Do what you gotta do. Like if you want to become famous on YouTube, you need to make some sacrifice. So I'm gonna like leave the studio literally for 2 months. So excited for this.
There is no way not to record videos. You wake up, boom, it's as close as it gets.
Straight to recording.
And we're done with our lighting setup. The final touch is going to be sound. A lot of people prefer having those podcaster mics in their YouTube and talking head videos. Personally, I'm not a huge fan because it takes a lot of space on the side, on this side or on that side, and it abstracts the picture. Unless you care about studio sound, when people only listen to you for 2 hours, this is all you need. This is my favorite microphone setup. This is DJI Mic 2, costs about $300, $350. All you need to do is pull it out of the box, clip it like that, and you're rocking and rolling. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out my company Represent. We make everything from talking head videos to motion graphics videos for software companies. I'll leave a link down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.